Costly, inconvenient, worn for courtship. Those were just some of the words that describe women's clothing in the early 20th century. And it was made that way on purpose. As we celebrate women's suffrage this week, we're taking a closer look at how clothing and style became a thing of suffrage to a choice. Here's KAMR Local 4's Jackie Kingston.
She's called the High Plains home and West Texas A&M University home since 2006, but the talents of Anne Medlock have been seen in Illinois, Colorado, Ohio, and New York. Anne is the professor of costume design at WT and has designed for a number of musicals and plays. As we recognize Women's Suffrage Week, we want to highlight some of the female trailblazers in our area. Anne Medlock joins me now in studio. Anne, thank you for being here today. We've known each other for many years, since I was a student at WT. Your work on the women's suffrage exhibit at the Panhandle Plains Historical Museum is so good.
Thank you so much.
We were there shooting a special for Women's History Month, and I was just so taken by the artistry and the beauty of women's clothing throughout the years. So I want to ask you first, if they say that the clothes make the man, do they also make the woman?
Oh yes, I think it's really easy for us, especially now with store where we can just buy whatever we want at Target, to not think about we are still making those choices. We are still, Mark Zuckerberg is choosing to wear hoodies. AOC is choosing each of those outfits that she wears, and it tells us a lot about a person and how they want to be seen by what they're wearing. So yes, I think that the clothing definitely makes a person.
How does clothing fit into suffrage, in your opinion?
I think that it's fascinating, and in the exhibit looking too, is how cyclical everything is. That it's easy for us to go now, oh, we're so, we wear whatever we want and it's comfortable, but we also wear Spanx. And, oh, of course it's so awful and so constrictive. Spanx. And it's all just a different perspective of what's attractive and why do I think I need to wear that. I think what's been interesting working on the suffrage exhibit is really thinking about how women were presenting themselves and how women continue to present themselves in public life and at home, and then how, with the exhibit especially, how underwear affects that, and what kind of underwear you're wearing influences how you're dressing. And the suffragettes from the 1919, they were wearing corsets and petticoats and bloomers and, all of these layers that we just look at and go, how did they wear those?
I think maybe high heels are probably also another indication.
Yeah, well, and I think heels are fascinating because, in some industries, they are expected, if not required. And in some industries, you get your eyes rolled at. Like, when I first started teaching at WT, I wore heels because I felt like a professor needed to wear heels. And then now I've gotten to the point where I was like, I need to wear shoes that I can function in. And my functionality, I still want to look nice. I teach costume design, so I still need to look good. But the functionality of clothes, I think, is just as important.
How does the cultural shift in how women have taken clothing and made it a symbol of not only their status and their job, but also their sort of viewpoint in the world? How has that informed how you stage shows?
That's a great question. And some of that, I think it's almost a two-part answer. That, and with that, thinking about that it was 1993 when women were first allowed to wear pants in Congress. And it was a group of women that said, this is ridiculous, we're wearing pants. And it was just in 2017 when a group of women said, we're going to wear shirts that don't have sleeves in Congress, and that's fine. And Paul Ryan then got to approve the idea of these women wearing, shirts that don't have sleeves on them because somehow that was, distracting.
Just not how it was done.
Well, not how it's done. And I have so many feelings about the idea of how I dress is distracting to a man, so I have to change how I dress. I think that's a fight we still have to fight, and especially in the schools. Some of the bills that just went through the Supreme Court, there was some concern that, and about would I be told that I couldn't wear pants to work anymore because my employer, happily, the Supreme Court shot that one down. But there was a lot of concern in May, and today the Supreme Court didn't uphold some things that affect women's bodies, and all we can do about it is vote, and again appreciate that we have the right to vote too, and how easy it is for me as a white woman to vote in Amarillo.
I've been asking people if they remember when they went to vote. With you, I feel, or when they first went to vote, I feel like with you it's more appropriate to ask, do you remember what you were wearing when you first went to vote?
So when I went to school in Ohio at the College of Worcester for my undergrad, and so I was probably in black cargo pants and a black tank top, maybe a flannel, because it was, late night.
Right.
I had my grunge tech going on. But I remember it was the first presidential election I could vote in was the Gore Bush election, and I was in Ohio.
Professor Medlock, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Appreciate you.
All right, thank you guys. Medlock says each play that WT does is a unique challenge to design clothing that is accurate for the time period, but also shows the accessibility of the character. She spoke about different issues regarding women and said the best way to change or support those issues is to get out and vote. To see this and our other women's suffrage stories, you can head to our website at myhighplains.com. We've put them all under the community tab titled Women's History.